How can you help your students to understand what your writing expectations are? If you've been wondering about this, then this video is for you. Welcome! This presentation is about transparency in writing courses. I'll show you some questions and strategies that you can use to increase transparency about your expectations in your course. But first, why does transparency matter? Well, here's a perspective one student shared about her experience in the writing classroom. It's just assumed you go in there, in the writing course, already knowing how to write, so the professors don't really teach us what they're looking for. Tice and Zawacki, the researchers who interviewed that student, found that the student's perspective is more common than what instructors think. According to Russell, because apprentices in a discipline learn very gradually its written conventions as an active and integral part of their socialization in a community, the process of learning to write seems transparent. In other words, writing conventions are learned slowly over time as writers are immersed in their disciplines. When instructors assume that these conventions and the process of learning them are transparent, instructors can impede the student's success, especially in writing intensive courses or WI courses, where students have to use writing to learn, to communicate, and to manage the writing project. So, whether your student is creating a business plan, or a pamphlet, or a research paper, or any other assignment, students need transparency. And what is transparency? Transparency is when faculty show students how to express what the students know through writing. More specifically, transparency requires that you explain your expectations about three things: the learning goals of the assignment, the good writing conventions of the discipline, the problem solving processes that are used to develop strong written products. I'm going to show you some key questions that faculty can ask themselves and their students about each of these three things so that they can increase transparency in their classroom. Let's start with transparency about learning goals. An instructor could ask themselves, what am I expecting my students to learn about their field by the end of this assignment? That question would help the instructor to start talking about the learning goals that are linked to the assignment. And to the student, the instructor could ask, what will this assignment help you as a student to do, understand, or think differently on? By asking this question, an instructor can help students to pause and reflect on how that assignment helps them to learn. And the instructor can clarify the connections between the assignment and the goals of the class. Now, what about transparency about writing conventions? The word conventions means features that are common or characteristic to a type of text. Those things could be structure, citation patterns, and mechanics. So, a question that an instructor could ask themselves is, what structure, citation patterns, or mechanics will my students need in order to complete this assignment? For example, to help students learn the citation convention, the faculty member could ask the student to complete a 40-minute activity. In this activity, the instructor could provide the students a model and then ask the students to answer some questions like, what kind of information is mentioned in these citations? How many citations are in this model? What sections of the model have the most citations? Why do you think these sections have more citations? How are the citations written? Do you see footnotes? What about dates? What about page numbers? And what is the purpose of these citations? By completing this activity, either individually or in groups, students begin to understand how citations work, how they will work for this assignment, and why citations will help them as writers. Finally, let's talk about transparency about solving writing-related problems. An instructor could ask themselves this question: So, what do I and others in my field do when we're solving writing problems like unclear feedback or revising a section of our article? And then the instructor might be prompted to send a memo to their class. Something like this: please come to my office hours where I'll be showing you my steps for interpreting and prioritizing feedback from a peer and revising unclear writing. This memo shows that the instructor is going to do some one on one modeling, showing the students how to solve their writing problems. Modeling is an excellent way for instructors to also clarify their expectations and increase transparency. WAC believes that transparency helps students to engage in their learning because they are more likely to think critically about how writers in their field communicate. So, if you want more help creating transparent teaching, participate in WAC's cross-disciplinary communities. You will get hands-on support to design and facilitate purposeful learning. And of course, feel free to email our WAC team who'll connect you to one of our highly rated workshops and other resources. Thank you for listening.